Have you ever hit a season of life where it sort of feels like everything just happens at once? Like maybe you feel like your whole life has felt like that, right? It's like work, deadlines, parenting, training, travel, sleep deprivation. Like you're trying to keep so many plates spinning, your health, your goals, your sanity. And then the moment one of them sort of wobbles and starts to drop, you kind of question everything. Well, that's exactly where I've been. I just flew 24 hours to Amsterdam with my 2-year-old, or nearly 2-year-old, to present at a Nike event in the middle of university exams and while in a calorie deficit, all for a photo shoot. And I kind of wanted to bring you into the chaos. But this video actually isn't really about the trip, it's about how to stay strong and keep your body and mind steady when your life doesn't really show any signs of slowing down. So I'm gonna break down the 3 systems that made it possible: structure, surrender, and simplified nutrition. We're gonna unpack each one, but by the end of this video, you're gonna walk away with a framework that you can use like today to keep you grounded, energized, and in control of your health, no matter how busy, no matter how unpredictable your life gets. Now, this is not just gonna be theory. These are really practical tools that you can start using the next time everything is starting to feel a bit overwhelming. Whether you're flying across the world, running between meetings, or you're just trying to make it through the week without losing yourself or your mind or your job, this video is for you. So we're gonna rewind way before the flight, the panicking, the prep, all of it, right? And I'm gonna show you how it all fits together using these systems. So I think one of the biggest issues is that when we're busy, we often feel like we're failing because life keeps interrupting us. But life is supposed to interrupt us, right? That is the life part. And so what actually matters is the system that you've built underneath, or to kind of like buffer that disruption, right? So the first system that I'm going to talk about is really more like a cognitive reframing, but it's a really important one and it contributes to the system overall. So the first system is about acceptance of duality. And I don't mean in a poetic sense, but actually in a psychological one. It's really the ability to shift between 2 modes, between structure and adaptability, but also like kind of those 2 things coexisting. So structure is your plan, right? It's the training, it's the food prep, it's the sleep anchors, and adaptability is your flexibility around that. So how you kind of adjust when real life chaos shows up for you. And I think most people either operate in one mode or the other. So they're either super rigid and then goes into burnout, or winging it and then losing momentum and relying on motivation. But duality is the middle ground with both extremes running at the same time. So it means the goal stays the same, even when the execution changes slightly. And that's really how you stay consistent during travel, during motherhood, during divorce, during stress, during anything. So duality doesn't mean be disciplined on some days and then, lazy on others. It's actually about using the right psychological gear for the day that you're living, but also just like being more prepared. So obviously on calmer days, you run the plan. On chaotic days, you slightly pivot the plan, but the plan doesn't completely disappear. The intention remains really strong. And this is rooted in, as I said already, like self-regulation and not just relying on motivation, which we know is going to fluctuate. Research shows that people who adapt their method keep their habits for much longer. They feel less guilt and they recover much faster from disruption. And so to give you guys a slightly more concrete example, when something like the Nike trainer exchange gets thrown my way and I have this huge opportunity to take a trip globally, the planning it doesn't start, the day before the trip or whatever. It starts a lot earlier than that. And so we kind of have to rewind a little to kind of get a bigger picture of why the planning and the structure is so important in the midst of chaos. Let's rewind.
The reason I decided to rewind a little is because the reality of traveling with a toddler is that the preparation actually starts many days before. And I know you guys know this, but I had been prepping since probably like a month prior, partially because I've been trying to understand how to like get her onto the time zone so that when we land, there's like less of a clunky transition. Obviously, just the lesson that I always learn with motherhood is just like, you can prep all you like, and you still will have to lean into the surrender of whatever comes up.
trained. Ayana is in daycare. As I was dropping her off, I was really trying to decide, like, do I train? Do I quickly run home and do work? Do I prioritize like the gazillion things I have to do? Just in general, you know, even prioritizing uni, prioritizing life admin. I have to say that I came close to not going to the gym, but I am so glad that I went, and I did a shorter session as a compromise. And I just feel like if I don't prioritize my training and just stick to the plan and focus and just get it done, that it's just so easy for it to not get done at all. And then that's when you obviously start to feel like, I'm not filling my cup properly, at least not for the body. So I had to kind of override the feeling inside me that was like, oh, you know, just like go home and do this and then come back and train, and instead just stick to the plan. Just stick to the plan. And this is why plans are so important, because my goodness, like there are going to be days where you actually can't stick to the plan, particularly with baby, right? And so what you could do is say, I'm going to do all the exercises I need to do at the gym now, and then I'm going to do the ones that I can do at home a bit later. So you are still going, you're still ticking that box, but you're just compromising slightly, and not even really compromising, because you're still going to get it done. If you don't have a plan, you will kind of go to the gym, you'll fluff about, you'll wonder if it's working, you'll feel like it was a waste of time. Then you'll get home, you pick some random workout on YouTube, and you're kind of like, I don't know if this is working either, but I kind of like it. To me, that is still good, right? Because that's exercise, but there is a really distinct difference between exercise and training. I promise that no matter how busy you are, if you can try to move into the mindset of someone who is training rather than just exercising, you are going to see results that will make you feel like you're not wasting your time, because that's what can sometimes happen, is that you start to feel like you're wasting your time even when you're just exercising, and then that is a slippery slope. So please consider being consistent with your training through a training program. Now you can either do it through the training programs on my website, but if you're currently in like a busy era, you could still do it using the Daily 10. You just want to make sure that you're coming back to the same videos rather than like just doing random workouts from my channel. Instead, kind of go, okay, for the next 4 weeks, I'm going to pick this upper body workout, this lower body workout, and this ab workout. And I'm going to repeat them twice each week. It's 10 to 1. I'm going to pick Ayana up around 3. I'm going to shoot some Daily 10. And then I'm going to just double check my packing, kind of recheck, close that bag, and not think about it anymore, and get ready to jump on that plane. It's not until tomorrow, but yeah, this is how far ahead I'm trying to think about these things, because I just know my brain, and I know my brain on the day. And then I also know that there's a possibility that Ayana turns around and is like, you know, sick tonight, I have a terrible sleep. Like I want to be doing the thinking about all these things while my brain is in a really healthy state, which it is relatively-ish right now. Where are we going right now? That's right. So the second system is really about regulation, but not in the cute kind of like morning routine version, even though I do love those, but the psychological version. So regulation is your ability to keep your nervous system within a stable range so that you can think clearly and make good choices and really not spiral. Most people only try to regulate when they're overwhelmed, but by then, you know, the horse is bolted. So I build regulation upstream. Right? Small, deliberate anchors, and they keep my stress system really steady before the day begins. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not a master of this. Like, life does get in the way, but this is the best way to do it. Because the reality is that your brain under stress, it loses access to executive function. So focus, planning, that impulse control. And if you don't train regulation proactively, your habits really collapse the moment that life gets difficult or you get really emotional, triggered. And that's why regulation, it can't just be a rescue tool, even though it is a good rescue tool, but it can't be. It has to be rehearsed when life is good too. And that means that these practices become solid. 5 minutes of journaling isn't just like a vibe, it's actual cognitive offloading, allowing you to organize your thoughts, improve your working memory, and just really like relieve that cognitive load. Breathing practices, they help with that allostatic load. I actually did a whole podcast on allostasis and allostatic load, so make sure you check that out, because there's a huge science to like how impactful breath work can actually be for you. Let me tell you, when I am stressed, I actually resist doing breath work because I don't want to come into stillness, because as soon as I come into stillness, I'm afraid of all the stuff coming to the surface. But you need it to come to the surface. You need things to come up and out, and you need to calm yourself neurologically and physiologically. I know that sometimes this can be a little bit hard to hear as a parent because you almost need things taken off your list, not put on them. But I can't stress this enough. Like even just waking up like 5 minutes early, or like sneaking off for 5 minutes, like offloading to your partner or to someone to just say like, hey, I need to take this. The other thing that I think is really beneficial that not a lot of us talk about is the fact that if we don't make these choices for ourselves, we're actually raising children that don't make those choices for themselves either. So if we are to actually, we're not going to have the best breathwork practice. I know that I certainly have tried to meditate around Ayana. I know that it's going to be less of a practice. I know that it's than when she's like at daycare, but I want her to see me dedicating time to myself, not just in the gym, but to these downtime regulation practices. They will benefit you and they will benefit your children too. So that's a little nod to my parents, because I know that it can be frustrating to see the whole morning routine thing, if that makes sense.
Again, 6 reps, then you rest.
Third system is nutrition, and it's not in the perfect meal prep sense. Like it's actually in the kind of keeping things predictable on purpose, making it really easy for yourself. So 5 or 6 meals that I can make anywhere that are really high in protein, high in fiber, and very low in thought. And that's not because I'm rigid, but it's actually because it saves my brain for all the other things that I'm juggling. I brought this up on my stories recently, and there's always a little bit of mixed perspective around this, but I think reducing cognitive load is always the best, right? When life is full, when life is chaotic, that's really when your energy and your blood sugar and your decision making, they start to fall apart. So this simple rule to just keep things really simple means less choice, and it actually means like more anchors in a way. So I have a small recipe repertoire. I know exactly what I'm gonna eat on most days. That means I know what my intake is. It's not fancy, it's just really predictable, and it reduces that decision fatigue. It also means that you actually do end up hitting the nutrients you need to hit. It might be that you just aim to hit all these nutrients. You aim to hit a certain, amount of calories, and it's definitely a certain amount of protein and definitely a certain amount of fiber. But it's not about being restrictive and not eating the things that you want, or eating out with friends, or sharing beautiful meals, because I obviously did that when I was away. But it's about knowing that I can do that and still make sure that I'm nourishing my body properly. We just have meals that we eat on repeat. We didn't always do that, and it was very much to the detriment of our performance in the gym and also our just general health, to be honest. As I said in my stories recently, I'm very much all for culinary art. I am friends with so many incredible chefs that are just so good at what they do. Justin is an incredible cook. He is a culinary artist in my eyes. So I can really appreciate it. But if you're in a stage in your life where there's a lot of stress, you need to make sure that you're hitting enough nutrients to support that stress. And if you're adding gym training into the mix, you need to make sure that you're getting the nutrients that are going to support that extra stress too. So keep it simple. You know what I mean? I just keep it simple. I had a whole bunch of boiled eggs out there, just made it easier to track the protein. I brought protein with me. I always bring my supplements. I make sure I bring creatine. It's just these things that make things much more predictable. At the end of the day, these systems, they're not about perfection. They're about making life feel much more doable, even when it is beautifully chaotic, like my kitchen and my lounge room, which I really need to sort out right now. If you want to see these systems woven into your training, that's exactly what the Vertue method was built for. So make sure that you check it out right here. Head to my website, shonavertue.com. If this episode landed with you, stay close. Comment, share, pass it on to someone who, maybe just needs a little bit more steadiness in their week, or is maybe experiencing the same thing that I am. And that's how this community grows, and it's how these ideas reach the women, the people that need it the most. So wherever you're watching from, I'm so glad you're here, and I really hope that you stick around for the next chapter, and make sure you let me know where you're watching from and what else you want to see. The irony of social media sometimes is that even though it's built to connect us, it can often become like one-way conversing. And so I want this to be a two-way conversation, partly for selfish reasons. I learn so much from you guys. You know, whenever you're messaging me, when we're chatting in the DMs or chatting on comments, you guys share certain experiences you've had, or even just like the parenting advice I often get from you guys is so amazing. And so selfishly, I'm like, can we talk? But also because sometimes I get so carried away in the act of like doing my work that I forget to share the psychological underpinnings of that work. And that's what this channel is about, in addition to, you know, the workouts and the yoga and the physical side of it. Psychology is really important to me. That's why I went back to uni. So when you guys ask me questions, it helps me to get this information out to you rather than it just being in my head and me just getting on with life. So let's chat. See you soon.